Hey guys, V here, and today I'm popping in to talk to you guys about podcasts. If any of you guys out there, love listening, basically listening to people talk, or, like some form of radio or podcast, I'm sure you know what podcasts are. I'm sure you don't need me to go into the history of podcasts and all that. So what I wanted to talk about today was my favorite podcasts that I love listening to. I would say three of them, well, two of them I have listened to well over a year. And then the other ones I discovered either like the end of last year or early this year. And I just really like listening to them. So I have a total of 7 that I want to show you guys. And 4 of them are like my dailies, or weeklies, because they only produce like one show a week. So every week that it comes, I love listening to them. And then there's 3 others that are kind of like honorable mentions. I will listen to them on occasion if I have time, but like they're still good and still worthy to try out in case you like that kind of stuff. So yeah, I am making this video right now during like the quarantine and COVID times. So if you are bored or you want to dive into podcasts and stuff, I figured I would share my favorites for you guys to check out. So first on the list is a rather new one, but it is also easily grown into one of my absolute favorites, and that is Fake Doctors, Real Friends with Zach and Donald. And this is actually 2 celebrities, Zach and Donald, and they played in the TV show Scrubs, which is hands down one of my all-time favorite series. I love that show so much. I have the DVDs and I like stream it online all the time. Just love watching it. It's like a comfort show for me. And I am also posting a video of my favorite shows to watch, to binge anytime at all, but also during quarantine, especially if you need like shows to binge, check that out. But anyways, they recently came out with this podcast. It was during the quarantine. They've been planning it for a while, but they had a lot more time in their hands during the quarantine, so they decided to release it. At first they were doing like 1 show a week, but now they upped it to 2 shows. It'll probably go back down to 1 once things go back to somewhat normal. But for now, I am just enjoying what I'm getting, and it's just so fun listening to them talk, because not only were they best friends on the show and they had such a dynamic and such amazing chemistry together, but they are also best friends in real life. Like Zach Braff, he introduced Donald Faison to his current wife, and like he was his best man, and he is Donald's like the godfather of Donald's kids and stuff. So they have an amazing friendship, and I don't know, it's just, I genuinely love it when cast members of any show or any movie are like genuinely friends in real life. Like it makes the show or project, whatever they're working on, it makes it more enjoyable, I guess. Like I like, because then when they have that amazing relationship in real life, it shows on camera. I mean, obviously they're actors, they can fake it and whatnot, but I like hearing about that in the real world as well. So anyways, yeah, in this podcast, they actually are rewatching Scrubs. So every episode is a different episode of the show, and they'll break it down. They'll give you like some behind the scenes tidbits and stuff like that. But for the most part, they also do a lot of just talking back and forth. They'll talk about their opinions on like current events and stuff, and they also have like guest stars, some of the people that were on the show, and also the producers, and they might have like writers and stuff like that. And it's just, I personally love getting like a behind the scenes take on everything: movies, TV shows, whatever. I like seeing how things are made, understanding where they got to where they did to produce what they did, and just how it all plays out. Like I love that. Like that's why I like watching like documentaries, or like I like seeing bloopers or any like behind the scenes stuff, because it's just the finished product is always amazing, but it's nice to see how they got there and, you know, just everything that goes into making that finished product. I love hearing them talk, and it's really fun. I laugh a lot listening to them, and it's always a pleasant part of my day when I get to listen to this podcast. So another favorite of mine is Unhappy Hour with Matt Bellows, and he is actually he was someone that worked for BuzzFeed. That's how he got his start, and he used to do like this wine hour or something like that. It was not an hour, but it was like he would chug like a whole bottle of wine and then basically just rant about random things, and it was so hilarious. And like I think he did a bunch of other things too, but then like he just became so popular, and then he kind of branched off and is doing his own thing. But this one thing that I listen to religiously is his podcast. I know he has videos and books and stuff like that, but I just like listening to his podcast. I like listening to him talk because basically in this podcast, he'll start off with like the worst news of the day, where it's just news that you wouldn't expect to happen, although kind of with the way the world is now, it's not surprising. But yeah, it's just funny, like almost unbelievable, like ridiculous news. He'll let you know about that and his opinion on that. And then he has very funny little segments, little tidbits, like Science with Matt, or like things that happen in Florida. It's so hilarious. I love listening. It's him and his producer, Barry. They chat together, and I love their dynamic back and forth. It's so funny. And just listening to him talk, is another like comedy show. One theme that you'll see across all of these videos that I'll be posting in the next few weeks or months or so, in terms of what I like personally, is the main theme is comedy. I love to laugh. Like I do, obviously I like drama or action and stuff like that, but what I gravitate towards the most is comedy. And because, you know, honestly, with the way the world is, or with your daily mundane stuff, you kind of just want to laugh. And so I always gravitate to comedies, whether it's TV shows, movies, podcasts, or anything. I want something that will make me laugh. So that's why I really like these two top shows that I'm telling you about. So that first half, he and Barry are just talking back and forth about, you know, the news and everything that's happening and his opinions and all that stuff. And then the second half of the show, he has a guest speaker on, and they go back and forth, but then they also talk about this one thing that he makes all his guests answer, is that he wants them to answer what is one thing they hate that everybody loves. And I always love hearing what people say, because there are so many things out there that are like super hyped, and I do not care about it all. Suffice it to say, he is a super hilarious guy. I love his personality. I love his attitude and his take on things. So if you are into comedy at all and you need a good laugh, then definitely check him out. So another one I like to listen to is The Tripod. And this is a podcast by a group of 4 guys known as the Try Guys. If you are on YouTube at all, or, you know, pay attention to BuzzFeed, they're fairly popular. I would say one of the most popular bits, acts, whatever you want to call it, to come out of BuzzFeed. They are just 4 guys, Zach, Ned, Eugene, and Keith, that, as their name suggests, they like to try things. And they will just experiment with everything from like knitting to boxing to cooking without a recipe, which is one of my favorite shows that they produce. But they have this podcast now where it's just the 4 of them sitting around just basically talking about, it's kind of like the same, you'll notice a trend with all of the ones that I list, where it's just a couple of people, a group of people just sitting around just talking. I like listening to that. I like that whole talk show feel, but I don't know, I don't watch any talk shows because like I'm just always doing a bunch of things, so I'm not much of a watcher. I just like to have something to listen to, whether it be background noise or something that I'm really just sitting there thinking about. I just like those voices as opposed to watching them, because like when you're having a talk show, they're not really doing anything. So I'm more inclined to just listen as opposed to watch. That's why I kind of really like podcasts, and I also really like audiobooks. I like listening to the guys talk. I'm big fans of theirs, and they'll just have, these random topics. Like I said, nice to listen to. You feel like you're sitting down, hearing them talk, and seeing their dynamic and them going back and forth and stuff. And they're really fun guys, and always a good time to hear them. And Keith is like super hilarious because he always has like a very funny outro. And they also have a producer on there, Miles, and he has his little special sections. So always fun, super, super fun. And another one that I love listening to is Rebe Romance. And that is actually a group of 3 ladies, and they are romance authors. And so the whole idea with the podcast is that every week they will feature a different romance novella, which is just a very, very short, probably like 5 to 6 chapter, I believe, kind of romance book. It's a new one. Nobody else has heard it or seen it, whatever. And they have like a bunch of author friends, and obviously other authors will probably submit or something like that. And they will have narrators read it. But at the beginning of it, it's the 3 ladies talking, basically shooting the ish, like it's just that. And honestly, if I were being honest with you guys, that is what I stick around for. And that is really all that I listen to, because I do like listening to audiobooks, but I'm not so much into novellas because they're just too short for me. So I don't really stay for the audiobook portion. I stay for the ladies, because it's Tess, Leah, and Melissa. And Mel and Leah, they form this author, they're co-authors, Alexa Riley. So those 3 ladies are so hilarious. I love listening to them. Again, same theme throughout all of these podcasts. I just love listening to them talk about their daily lives, what's going on, what's happening, and their opinions on things, and just listening to them go back and forth. I think it's so hilarious. Like, I adore Leah. She's like the cutest thing. And I relate to Tessa a lot. Like, her and I are pretty similar in our way of thinking and our personalities and stuff. And I've also met her in real life too, so she's a gem. I adore her. And I just love listening to them talk. They'll talk for about like half an hour, 45 minutes, something like that, and then they'll go into the book. And but yeah, it's just really nice to talk to. Again, just it makes you feel like you're just sitting there with them and just catching up. So yeah, those are like my absolute top ones. And the other ones that I want to give like an honorable mention, a shout out to, is Asian Enough. And that is a more serious, current events, dramatic kind of feel to it, because it's actually a show produced by some writers at the LA Times, and they deal with more serious topics. And it's basically just talking about being Asian American, and dealing with racism and just like bias and very important topics that I generally don't like. I have opinions and issues with a lot of things in terms of racism and stuff like that, but I don't like to really go into it too much, because it's really depressing the way the world is, and I don't like to focus too much on depressing things. I do like to stay on top of what is relevant and what's going on in the world in terms of Asian Americans and all of that. And so I kind of like their take on it. I don't listen to every episode. If there is, they feature various Asian American artists, actors, musicians, what have you. They'll have it on like news people and stuff, and they'll talk to them about their experiences and also how they feel about current events and stuff like that. And so I really just listen to episodes where I actually know the person, because I want to hear their take on it. Like recently I listened to an episode with Margaret Cho, And then John Cho was their first one. I loved that episode. I really admire John Cho, and he is a fantastic actor and all that. So I loved that one. And there was an episode with a Viet guy who I didn't really know, but since I'm Viet, I wanted to check out his take on things, and so it was interesting listening to that. And so every once in a while, if I want a more kind of serious take on things, and I'll dive into that. But if you're Asian American or if you're into that kind of stuff, definitely check that out. And another one that I really like, one of my another all-time favorite show that I like is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And so one of the actors actually has a podcast. It's official show podcast from the network and stuff. And it's by this actor, Mark Evan Jackson. If you watch the show, he plays Kevin. He was also on The Good Place. And I've seen him around a couple other places. But those are his like most known ones. And he's hilarious. I love listening to it. Again, it features a lot of the cast members, also the producers and writers and everybody behind the scenes and stuff. And it's kind of in that same vein as like Fake Doctors, Real Friends, where you get a lot of the behind the scenes takes and just, you know, the whole cast dynamic and all of that. I really am such a fan of that. Like if you know of any other shows, like popular shows out there that do this kind of thing, let me know and I'll check that out if I was interested in the show. I love listening to that kind of thing. So this is really nice because I'm a fan of the show and I, you know, like listening to that kind of stuff. So if you are a 99 fan, 99, then definitely check that podcast out. And he's hilarious because I just love, he's so like, the way that he acts on the show, it's hilarious. And so you kind of get a little bit of that personality in this podcast as well. So, and finally, the last show that I want to talk about is Pretty Basic. And then this is a podcast from two YouTubers, Alicia Marie and Remi Cruz. And Remi is the YouTuber that I follow personally. I've watched her for a few years now. I've seen her channel explode, really. And I genuinely like her. She has some moments I'm like, whatever. But like, I think she's like 24 or something like that. She's young. But she's sweet. And I love watching her vlogs and just basically seeing how the other side lives and all of that. And this is a podcast that she does with her best friend, Alicia Marie, and they talk about random things, you know. I don't listen to it all that often because I feel like they cater towards a more younger crowd. But once in a while, like if they have like Q&As or if they have a topic that I really am interested in, I'll listen to. I do like just listening to her talk. Something about the way that she talks is just, I think because I'm so used to it after watching her videos that I just like listening to it. So, yeah, I will check them out every once in a while. So it's kind of like if I'm really bored, I'll listen in and see what they're up to. So yeah, those are all the podcasts that I really, really love that I want to recommend to you guys. And if you guys have any recommendations, let me know. And I hope you guys are doing well mentally as well as physically through this whole quarantine thing, and you guys are staying safe and all that. So I think that's it for me today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.